All right. Uh, my name is Dick Downey, and I shall be your moderator this evening. The hour of 7 p.m. has arrived, and a quorum is present. I therefore call this fiscal year 2026 special town meeting to order. For those of you who wish, our chairman, Mr. Dave, is going to give our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll please stand up, and the flag is off to your left.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we start the proceedings tonight, I would like to spend a few minutes going over the ground rules for tonight's meeting. Per Section 2.2 of the Charter, I am required to appoint a deputy moderator who shall complete the town meeting should I be unable to continue. Therefore, I appoint William Coleman as deputy moderator. This appointment needs ratification of the town meeting, so all those in favor of William Coleman as deputy moderator, please raise your ballot. Thank you. All those opposed? He is confirmed. Thank you. Per the Commonwealth of Massachusetts law, there is no smoking on school property, nor on the building or the ground. Also, please take a moment right now, as I shall, to turn off or put on vibrate all your cell phones or other electronic devices as a courtesy to your fellow residents. We have some non-resident guests here with us this evening. If there are no valid objections, they will be allowed to remain, but in no case will they be allowed to vote. They are asked to sit in an assigned area here off the first several rows to my left and wear an identification tag. Guests may be allowed to speak, but only if they're requested by a town official, and then only to give information, not opinions. The town clerk is required to provide the Attorney General's office with detailed notes on every article and person who speaks at this meeting. Therefore, I ask that you clearly state your name and street address each time you speak. There are microphones, 3, at the front of each aisle. Please line up behind the microphones the closest to you, and I will call upon you when it is your turn to speak. Since this is all being recorded, I may ask you to start over again if we cannot hear or understand you. Please address all questions and comments to me, the moderator, and not to any other individual. If you have more than one question or statement to make, please go to the rear of the line for your next question or statement in order that as many people as possible get a chance to speak. Depending on your answers that you receive, I may allow a follow-up question. My job is to best balance the flow of new information for you voters to consider, while at the same time keeping the meeting itself as efficient as possible. Therefore, it is important that you make your point concisely and please stay on topic. If I feel that no new information is being presented, I shall then call for the vote. Our Constitution gives us the right to make our opinions known and to ask questions. And in fact, I encourage you to do so. However, this does not give anybody the right to be disrespectful to other audience members or to town officials. Should I feel that's happening, I shall take and ask that person to stop speaking and to take their seat. Likewise, this is a legislative body and should be thoughtful. So please, no cheering, no booing, or any of those kinds of activities, but actually listen to what your other town folks have to say before making your final decision. Per Maine Town Bylaws, Chapter 1, Section 14, a secret written ballot shall be taken for any article or amendment concerning these topics. Wages, benefits, or conditions of employment of any town officer or employee. The acquisition, sale, or lease of real estate. Borrowing. And authorization for expenditures equal to or greater than 0.1% of the last budget, which translates to $63,800. And zoning articles. Each person should have a ballot booklet like this, and it should begin with 07. If it begins with any other number than 07, please go out to the registration and get a new booklet and turn in your old one. When I call for a hand vote, please use the ballot to raise your thing so then I'll know the difference between guests and registered voters. Secret ballots. To facilitate counting secret ballots, please do not fold the ballot. Simply turn it upside down so that others cannot view it, and then put it into the basket when the collectors come around. I shall call for an article, and the individuals from the sponsoring organization will move that article. All articles will be initially moved, have been previously given to the town clerk. Any article moved differently than that printed in the warrant or as given to the town clerk will have to be given to me in writing. I shall only read an article if it's moved differently than that printed in the warrant. For lengthy articles, I just give a summary. An amendment to an article must be given to me in writing and must include the sponsor's name. It will be then reviewed by town council and the moderator to see if that the language meets the criteria for the Attorney General's acceptance. There may be an occasional time when an amendment cannot be accepted, such as an expansion of scope or conflicting state statute. An expansion of scope, for example, if there was $1 million on the warrant and somebody amended it to $2 million, I would say that's out of scope, because somebody may have come to this meeting if they knew it was going to be $2 million and didn't come, so it wouldn't be applicable, part of my requirements. To make an amendment, raise your hands with your ballot and be recognized and state that you wish to make an amendment. For your convenience, there is an amendment form out in the lobby. I shall ask that you state the amendment and ask for a second. If there is no second, I cannot accept the amendment. If I do accept the scope and the second, the legality of the amendment, I shall then ask you to bring the filled out form up to me for our records. Once I have received the written amendment, I shall read the amendment and expect this process is going to take several minutes. If you open your warrant, you will find that there is some reference information on pages 2, 3, and 4 that might be helpful. Voting, I have grouped Articles 5 and 6, also 8, 9, and 10, which are similar and require a secret ballot to be discussed and voted together to save time. However, if after discussion, any 5 voters wish to vote them separately, we can do that. If you agree, please raise your ballot book. Thank you. If you disagree, please raise your ballot book. Okay, we are authorized to do that, so we will do that when the time comes. Will the sponsor of the first article please move your article?
I move to approve Article 1 as printed in the warrant, except the words "to do" or "act thereon."
Can you do it again while the
Okay.
microphone's on?
Yeah. I move to approve Article 1 as printed in the warrant, except the words "to do" or "act thereon."
Thank you. Finance Committee recommendation. The Finance Committee recommends.
Essentially, this article is to correct an oversight that occurred in 2018. The Scholarship Committee came forward to establish themselves as an official town committee and appointed by the Select Board. Unfortunately, they didn't come to the bylaw committee that we would realize that it should have also have been included a change to chapter 4, which is the organization of town government. It should include the scholarship committee as a committee that the select board does appoint. It also should include the exact number. The original article say 5 or more, and it really should have a number so that basically they know how many spots should be filled every year. So this is a correction on it. Essentially, we're going back and dotting the i's and crossing the t's. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Okay, we'll move to voting. This is an open ballot and a majority. All those in favor, please raise your ballot. Thank you. All those opposed? Motion carries. Article 2.
Good evening, Ken Myers, 16 White Ave, and I'm also the Executive Director of the Maine Contributory Retirement System. Move to approve the article. Article 2 is printed in the warrant, except the words "to do" or "act thereon."
Do I have a Finance Committee recommendation? Thank you. Go ahead, Ken. Ken, you want to make your presentation?
We had one former employee who retired under an accidental disability retirement prior to November 7, 1996. At that time, there wasn't an option to provide a survivor benefit. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 32, Section 101, the surviving spouse is currently eligible to receive $6,000 annually. If the retiree's primary cause of death was a result of the same condition that the accidental disability retirement was based on, the surviving spouse would have received the pension amount at the time of the passing. This isn't what happened in this case, and this is the only one that we know of. There are no other accidental disability retirees prior to 1996 that could be affected. So we are asking that you accept the provisions of Section 65 of Chapter 139 of the Acts of 2012 and increase the annual amount to $12,000. The increased benefit will be paid from the funds under the control of the Maine Contributory Retirement System. Thank you.
Questions or comments? I recognize the microphone to my left.
Jeffrey Dutton, 106 Waltham Street, and I just want to know, is this a measure that affects just one individual, and is there a possibility that other individuals will eventually qualify for it, or I don't understand if this has a long-term effect?
Mr. DeMar?
There are no others. This is a one-time event. I think what happened was it just kind of fell through the cracks over the years. Nobody looked at to see if we had any accidental disabilities that might fall in. Like I said, if that person had died the same cause of the disability, we wouldn't be here talking about it. It's a one-time, and according to the state actuary, it's negligible as far as the effect.
I see. Thank you.
Okay, this is an open majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your ballot. Thank you. All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Article 3, Mr. Gavin.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Gavin. I am a member of the Select Board. Mr. Moderator, I move to approve Article 3 as printed in the warrant, except the words "to do" or "act thereon."
Do I have the Finance Committee recommendation? Thank you. Mr. Gavin?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, back a while back, not that long ago, but the legislature passed and the governor approved an amendment to Chapter 138, Section 12D, which gave local communities the option to allow businesses who own on-premises wine and malt liquor licenses, namely beer and wine only, to transfer those licenses to become all liquor licenses. And the requirement under the law is that if a business chooses, it's their option, if the business chooses to do this, they would not be able to transfer that license to another business. Should they sell their business, that license would be transferred back to the town to be distributed out as we normally do. However, it's seen as an economic development opportunity for the community because some businesses would like that opportunity to be able to take their beer and wine only license and expand it off to have all liquor license. So that's the gist of what this article allows for. And it's fairly straightforward. But again, it would be a non-transferable license. It doesn't change the amount of licenses that we have available in the town. It's strictly to benefit existing businesses.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Okay, we'll move to a vote. This is an open majority. All of those in favor, please raise your ballot book. Thank you. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Article 4.
Good evening. I'm Lindsay McConkey, member of the Select Board. Mr. Moderator, I move to approve Article 4 as printed in the warrant, except the words "to do" or "act thereon."
Finance Committee recommends.
Thank you.
The town's treasurer-collector, in working with the town's bond agency, identified previously authorized and unissued debt for projects that are either complete or will not be initiated. Projects that are complete no longer need debt to be authorized, and rescinding the other unexecuted debt authorizations is proper housekeeping and accurate bookkeeping.
Questions or comments? Okay, we'll move to a vote. This is an open majority. All of those in favor, please raise your ballot book. Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. One of the comments was that I haven't been asking for a second on the motions. Any of those motions that are printed, that are made the same as in the warrant is considered the second, and so that's why I have not been asking for them. Okay, Article 5.
Good evening. I'm Chris De Silva. I am also a member of the Select Board. And I am here to discuss Article 5 and make a motion to move to approve Article 5 as printed in the warrant, except the words "to do" or "act thereon."
Do I have a Finance Committee recommendation?
Finance Committee recommends.
Thank you.
Okay, this article allows the Select Board the option to lease the rooftops of the new Green Meadow School and other municipal buildings to solar energy companies, and largely identical to the previously authorized articles at the annual town meeting in June 2020 for installing solar panels at the Maynard High School.
Discussion. Comment. So I would like you to move Article 6, and it is related, and you could discuss on them, and then we'll vote all at one time.
Good evening. Mike Stevens, also on the Select Board. I move to approve Article 6 as printed in the warrant, except the words "to do" or "act thereon."
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends.
Okay.
This article allows the option to enter into a structured tax agreement relating to solar energy systems on the new Green Meadow School and other municipal buildings, and is largely identical to previously authorized articles at the annual town meeting in June 2020 for installing solar panels at Maynard High School.
Discussion. I recognize the microphone in the center.
Marie Gunderson, 119 Parker Street. I'm not sure I understand why these are being put forth when it's been said they're identical to previous. I mean, why is there new ones if we've already voted? What's the difference? What's changed? Why are they necessary? Thank you.
Would you like to explain?
I would defer to the town administrator, Mr. Johnson, who would do a better answer than myself.
Mr. Moderator, Greg Johnson, Town Administrator. The previous article from 2020 was just for the high school. So these will be for primarily the Green Meadow School, but as well as other municipal buildings. That's the difference, different buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Terry Short, 20 Brooks. And what does structured tax agreement mean? Is this just saying that we'll put solar panels on the school? Is that the plain English of this?
Yeah, it's essentially allowing the town to generate revenue from the equipment that's on those structures.
I recognize the microphone to my left.
Richard Allison, 4 Path 7. Is there any plans on the disposal after the 30-year lifespan of these panels are complete? There's currently hundreds of millions of metric tons of panels that are going to need to be disposed of. We will be facing some kind of cost as there's some hazardous waste in those to recycle them.
I'm not personally aware of those plans. I'm not sure of anybody else.
Mr. Moderator, Greg Johnson, Town Administrator. So we will be acquiring, but through a lease possession of those solar panels. So the town will not be responsible for disposing of those panels afterwards. It will be the responsibility of the provider. And my suspicion is, even before 30 years, there may be a turnover of the technology and improvements of those materials, maintenance and upkeep. It's all going to be borne by the vendor, not by the town.
So that vendor is looking to profit from this.
Right, that's right. So they will make money off of the solar, the energy that they produce. The town will be the recipient of the benefit of reduced utility costs, as well as the personal property tax. That's what the second one is. So we'll get some revenue from that. Our utility bills will go down, and we'll use more efficient energy.
All right, I think I think.
Any further discussion? Yes, I recognize the microphone to my left.
Just 106 Waltham. Is this solar array in place already? And if so, how was the contractor or provider chosen? And if it's not, if it's to be built, how will the town decide who's going to do it? Because there are a lot of companies in this business, and some are more reliable than others.
I believe that this would go through the process of open bid as per the normal contracting that takes place with the town. But again, I'm not sure if Mr. Johnson would prefer to add to that. Yeah, so as with any contract that the town constructs with any other companies, it goes through an open bid process. So that would continue as normal for this kind of equipment.
So Greg Johnson, the Town Administrator. The plans for integrating solar to the new elementary school are well in place. You can see the new elementary school, not far from here, is let's say about halfway through, and it already expects and has the designs for the solar panels, as well as other energy efficiency technologies. we already have a relationship through the procurement process with the same solar company that put it on in the high school. It's called Solect. It's just the provider. They do a number of municipal facilities and other facilities, hospitals, museums, and whatnot. So we already had a good relationship with them. It was all through procurement in the first place, and our expectation is we'll continue that relationship going forward.
Well, if you're happy with them for what they've done, then go ahead.
I recognize the microphone to my left.
Hi, I'm Kevin Hickey, 40 Parker Street. Is the town locked in on a rate that we're going to get for this electricity, and will it increase if electricity gets more expensive, or are we locked in on a 30-year rate? Is that how it works?
Greg Johnson, Town Administrator, Mr. Moderator. We have not yet signed the power purchase agreement, which is the contract, if you will, for the provider about what the rates will be. My expectation will be similar, although I don't remember the details of the agreement that we have with Solect for the high school. But it sort of takes into consideration the costs of the maintenance and responsibilities and their profit, as well as what sort of offsets we may get. And in addition, the personal property tax that they're going to pay us. It's kind of complicated, but we felt very confident that we were getting the most advantageous deal that we got for the high school, and I suspect it to be very largely similar terms for the elementary school and otherwise.
So does that mean it's locked in or not locked in?
Well, it's part of the plan. So this is not for everyone's houses. This is just for the municipal body.
Yeah.
So it's not really opt-in. It's more like this is what the town wanted the school to be designed to have. And knowing the operational costs, if you don't use it, we're trying to sort of reduce our overall costs. And also we're reducing our maintenance costs because it'll still be owned by the private vendor. So it's not really, it is opt-in because it was the direction the town gave into the designs of the school.
So is 30 years, can we not do that for 10 years and then negotiate, or do we have to lock in for 30 years?
No, we possibly could. If I recall, I'm not reading in front of me, but the article is seeking authorization to allow the board to negotiate up to 30 years, if I recall. So, and that's a standard. Those select company or the solar companies want to be able to have a return on their investment, and 30 years is probably standard. That's my expectation.
So 30 years is standard in the business, or is it 10 years?
Could I ask you to go to the end of the line because you already had one follow-up and let the next gentleman speak? And then you can follow up a question. Oh, don't go to the seat.
Richard Allison for the Impact 7. Is there any kind of, I don't know if it's indemnity, the right word, over our roof warranties if we go drilling through our roofs?
Mr. Moderator, Greg Johnson, Town Administrator. I believe the question is is there a warranty or sort of protection, if you will, from the liability of our roofs? So without recalling the details of the terms of the contract, which I said earlier, the leasing contract, my expectation is there will be liability on behalf of the owner if they were to make damage to our roofs, whether it be the schools or otherwise. They would be responsible for.
My concern would be a leak far away from where this has been installed, but like a shingled roof is 20 years of warranty with a Fischer-Thayne, and if you puncture that Fischer-Thayne anywhere on the roof, the whole roof is voided.
Okay.
So if we wind up with an issue on a roof that's unrelated to this, it could still be voided. Is there going to be some kind of language that can prevent that, or?
So, Mr. Moderator, if you will. So separately, there is the schools being constructed, and without, again, having materials in front of me, my expectation is there are warranties related to the work and construction of the roof of the elementary school, as well as the other municipal buildings. How they relate to the installation of the solar panels to this, we can look into the details to make sure they're cooperative. Again, if the town should not be bearing the responsibilities of a vendor's work or damage.
I know condominiums have a big problem with this right now.
Okay.
So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You sure you wouldn't like a follow-up question? You're all set. Okay. Any other comments? All right, so we'll move to voting. So a little complicated. Article 5 is because it's actually changing who is going to be in charge of the land. it requires a secret ballot with a 2/3 majority. Article 6 just requires a majority. So if it passes by 2/3, both articles will pass. If it passes by a majority, Article 5 will fail and Article 6 will pass. If it doesn't reach a majority, they both fail. So we will now vote on number 7 for Articles 5 and 6. All right, so while that's going on, we'll move to the next article, Article 7.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Swanberg. I'm on the Select Board. I move to transfer from the PFAS Settlement Fund the sum of $777,250.05 into the Water Improvement Fund to pay costs related to infrastructure, maintenance, and operation of the town's water service systems, or take any action relative thereto.
Do I have a second? Do I have Finance Committee recommendation?
Finance Committee recommends.
Your presentation.
Great. Article 7 moves just over $777,000 from the PFAS Settlement Fund into the Water Improvement Fund. This is just the first installment of what's expected to be possibly over $3 million from national PFAS lawsuits. Combined with a $2.3 million state grant, these resources continue Maynard's recent progress, such as the Well 4A treatment plant and the new Green Meadow well, to strengthen our water system and ensure a safe, reliable supply. Perfect. The town has partnered with Stantec, an independent engineering firm, to create a comprehensive water system master plan. It identifies near-term priorities, including testing and permitting of new wells at Rockland Avenue and Old Marlborough Road, evaluating storage and circulation, and designing PFAS treatment systems for all water sources. These are the real on-the-ground projects that will improve water quality and reliability. As fellow residents, we all share a stake in Maynard's water future. The master plan envisions replacing the old Marlborough Road plant with a modern facility that can also treat water from the Green Meadow wells, which will expand capacity, improve water clarity, and ensure long-term sustainability. Together, we're going to build on recent progress to help keep Maynard's water clean, safe, and resilient for everybody who lives here. Looking forward to the longer-term plans, Maynard will continue to explore a possible connection to the state's Quabbin Reservoir through the MWRA, that's the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority. That would be a major project in the long term requiring regional coordination. The Select Board and the town staff are working together to use resources efficiently and will update this master plan as progress is made and new information comes in. Please visit the town's website if you have any questions for details and for updates, and thank you for your continued support of Maynard's water future.
Discussion. I'll recognize the microphone in the center.
Marie Gunnarsson, 119 Parker Street. So the question I have is, how much of this money actually goes to mitigating PFAS, and how much of it is just going into a general improvement?
All the funding will go into the Water Improvement Fund, which will be for all of those things I mentioned. So it is a bucket that will be used for all of the water improvement projects, including PFAS mitigation design.
If my follow-up question is, if money like this is used for general water, will there be enough to address the PFAS issue?
These things need to be staged carefully. So if you want PFAS mitigation to be effective, some things need to be staged before it and some things after. So this is one part of funding of numerous funding sources that we're going to need to make sure that we meet all the goals that I just discussed.
Thank you.
My left.
Kathy Hooton, Deer Path, 24 Deer Path. I just have a different number, that's all.
Speak into the mic.
Oh, the number on my booklet is a lot different than the number.
Yeah, as I mentioned, there's numerous payments that we're expecting to come in over a number of years. And so between when we had the initial, more money came in, and instead of, I think the total payment sum is going to come in over the course of 8 years. So instead of waiting for 8 years for all of it, we're going to come at various town meetings to make sure we can put it to good use as quickly as possible. Good question.
Excuse me for a second. Okay. So the reason why I asked for a second, because it was moved differently than printed in the warrant. Okay, any further questions or discussion? Okay, the tally has been done, so we can vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Recognize the microphone to my left.
Stephen Hunter, 29 O'More Avenue. While I recognize the value of having clean water, which I'm all for, we have to also consider what causes or preventing PFAS, other chemicals, from getting into our water source. And we ever considered banning pesticides on lawns and other things versus spending all this money to improve our water quality, which is great, but we need to prevent what goes into it, what shouldn't go into it. So that should be taken hard in consideration. Thank you.
I recognize the microphone to my right.
Autumn Michaels, 59 Old Marlborough Road. It is my understanding from as it is printed, that none of this money is a tax burden on the town payers and is purely the result of money coming in from a lawsuit from the PFAS manufacturers, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I recognize the microphone in the center.
Thank you. My name is Mary Canducci, and I live at 219 Don Road. Gentleman that just left the microphone said that the water quality was great. Every time I turn on the tub or the sink or the bathroom sink, it comes out brown at first. And I feel like it's just loaded with terrible chemicals because eventually it comes out Metz clear. What are you going to do for that soon?
Yeah, thank you. That's an excellent question. Most of the discoloration, we believe, is a result of iron and manganese and participants that come out of solution when combined with some carbon. They're not dangerous for health, but they cause a lot of problems for people trying to do their laundry. So we recognize, and in other cases, and it's just not pleasant. So we acknowledge that. In the long term, we're going to need a new treatment plant, which I discussed a few slides ago, to make sure that we mitigate all of those kind of sources. There's also some sources of iron and manganese built up in the pipes that we need to replace. And in the short term, we're looking at drilling a new well in Rockland Ave and making associated treatment upgrades. What we hope that will do is allow us to pump more water from that well source, which reduces our reliance on the old Marlboro well source, which is the cause of the discoloration that you're seeing. And we're hoping that that will be a shorter term improvement while we work towards that longer term goal of a unified treatment plant for the old Marlboro and the Green Meadow well sources.
I get that. I moved here in March from Boston, and we had the Quabbin Reservoir water, which is perfect. And you mentioned something about the Quabbin Reservoir coming to mix with this water.
We are advocating to have a connection with the Quabbin Reservoir, but that is not something fully within our control. That will require the cooperation of a lot of different towns and state authorities. So that is something that we're looking for in the long term, but we're not waiting or holding our out hopes just on that one potential outcome. So we're taking some of the immediate steps I just mentioned in the meantime.
And during the summer, you all sent out a booklet about the water quality in Maynard. And you mentioned something about when you use chlorine and ozone or something, it creates a byproduct called something that begins with a T, big word. And you said it was higher than it should be. I haven't had one drop of water in my system from this system since I moved here. I buy water. So what about that?
Yes, some of the reasons we started to exceed that limit was due to some of the other efforts we put in place to treat some of the water colored. That was a limit. We didn't go very high over it. We just exceeded slightly on that limit as a result of that. And we're now putting in improved treatment processes at the Green Meadow well, which is the one site where we didn't have the newest up-to-date one, which will take care of that disinfection byproduct. So we did do a slight bump over on that exceedance limit, and we will continue to report that out whenever it happens. And we're putting actively in place mitigations to get that back down below that limit.
Okay, if you could just hold your question, I'd like to
Okay.
recognize the microphone.
Thank you for your
to the
questions.
right.
Edward J. Mullen, 5 Nancy Circle. Since we're talking about quality of water and looking into the Quabbin, could you give me and maybe the other community members an update on White Pond, which borders Stowe and Hudson? It was always my impression that this is our area. We own that water. And what would be the possibility of connecting Maynard's water system to the White Pond system? Do you have an answer for that?
Yes, I do. Thank you. It's a good question. And when the water system master plan was developed with the independent consultants, they did look at that option. There's a couple of challenges with that. One, due to the location of the state firefighting facility next to that and the use of firefighting foam, there are rather high levels of PFAS in that water relative to the in-town water sources. And so treating that would be an extra expense. And then to get a connection there, we would need to go through the Assabet Wildlife Refuge, which is federal land. We don't necessarily have the ability to do that. And so not only would that be another additional expense to get to White Pond, there's no guarantee that the federal government would even let us do it. So it would be a big risk, a big expense, and the risk might not even pay off. So we've taken White Pond off the table due to both the ability to connect and due to the high levels of PFAS in that. Our current in-ground water systems or sources are going to be cheaper and cleaner. And then in the long run, an MWRA connection would also be improvement over the White Pond source.
Recognize the microphone in the center.
Thank you. Dimitra Tsekaris, 6 Mill Street. Mr. Moderator, the gentleman who was up before who asked about prevention in addition to repairing, et cetera. I am curious, and maybe other people here are curious, is there anything that we can be doing as a community to prevent more PFAS? I mean, we can't deal with the firefighter thing probably, but is there something in our own properties we can be doing and thinking about? Thanks.
Yeah, we're starting to escape the area of my subject matter expertise, but a lot of these are happening at the state and federal level, including legislation. I know our representative, Kate Hogan, has been very active in understanding the causes and has provided a lot of great research and work towards mitigation. I know that the firefighting community is much more aware than they were about the causes and are moving towards new products. I don't know about the current status of those, but there is a lot of good research that has come out very recently on the causes of this, and we will continue to see more. So I don't have a fully detailed list, but we can certainly take a look as new things come out about the common sources and how to avoid them.
Okay, we'll move to a vote. First, I'll give you the results of Articles 5 and 6. Noes were 6, so if we double that, that's 12. So if we have more than 12, it passes. We had 136, so it passes easily for both articles. Okay, we'll now vote on Article number 7, which requires, Article number 7 is an open majority. So all those in favor, please raise your ballot book. Okay, thank you. All those opposed, please raise your ballot book. Okay, the article passes. Would you please move Articles 8, 9, and 10?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move to approve Article 8 as printed in the warrant, except the words "to do" or "act thereon."
Recommendation.
Committee recommends.
Article 9.
I move to approve Article 9 as printed in the warrant, except the words "to do" or "act thereon."
Do I have a Finance Committee recommendation?
Finance.
Article 10.
I move to approve Article 10 as printed in the warrant, except the words "to do" or "act thereon."
Do I have a Finance Committee recommendation?
Finance Committee recommends.
So they can make the presentations by talking about all 3 articles, and you can ask questions on all 3 articles. Mr. Arsenault.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Arsenault, and I'm the chair of the Planning Board. Article 8 is a very simple change. The purpose, and I'll read the purpose so everyone can hear it. This article will amend the list of overlay districts to include Powder Mill Overlay District into that list. Essentially, this is an administrative change. We have a section of the zoning bylaws that lists out the different overlay districts, and we're simply adding the Powder Mill Overlay District to the list. We initially passed the first part of the Powder Mill Overlay District in the Springtown meeting of 2024. And so this is now an official overlay district, and we're just adding it to the list of districts. Should I continue on with the presentations, or do you
Yes,
want to take
please.
questions? Okay.
With 9 and 10.
Okay. Number 9, this article will establish consistency throughout the zoning bylaws for residential parking requirements. If you open up your, oh, shoot, I don't have my, I was going to tell you what page to open up the warrant articles to. 13, thank you. If you look at page 13, there's essentially a strikeout on the top of that page that references residential dwellings, I believe. And essentially, that was a requirement of the downtown overlay district. We're just striking that out to make it consistent so that it's throughout town. What this will default to is just the town. Thank you. As just the town zoning overall itself. And then if you could go back one slide.
Yeah, you can go to 10, yep.
Thank you. Okay. So this article has 2 purposes, and one large overall arching purpose, but 2 specific purposes. The overall purpose is to now, I referenced before the Powder Mill Overlay District that was passed in the spring of 2024. That article passed what was referred to as Subdistrict A. This warrant article moves to include subdistricts D, E, and F into that overlay district. And so it has 2 specific purposes. One is to amend the overlay district section of the town zoning bylaws to include subdistricts D, E, and F. And the second part is to amend the zoning bylaw map. So just for some background, This is part of what was named the Powder Mill Corridor Initiative as part of a master plan. This was kicked off in the fall of 2020, and we had community forums and various presentations and studies done throughout the years. There were hearings that were held starting in the fall of 2023 for the Powder Mill Overlay District with the Planning Board. The spring, as I mentioned before, the spring of 2024 is when we passed the first sub-district, and that received, I believe, 96% of the vote of the affirmative for that. And then in this past summer, we held planning board meetings and hearings for these other 3 sub-districts of D, E, and F. Next slide, please. So the overlay district is an optional district. It's optional zoning. It's zoning that essentially is placed on top of base zoning. So the base zoning will stay the same. This is an overlay district that will be placed on top of it that becomes optional. And the initial goal was that it was designed to incentivize development and align with community goals. And you do that by modifying things like different regulations and dimensional standards and parking regulations, affordable housing parameters, and we included design guidelines into this as well. Next slide. So here's the map of the zoning bylaw. This is what, if we pass, this is what will be included in the updated map. You can see D is shown in blue, E is shown in purple, and F is shown in green. Just for some reference, the bottom corner of E is close to the intersection of Powder Mill and Waltham Street. The sub-district D includes the shopping plaza, the name is escaping me right now, the Victory Shopping Plaza, that includes the co-op and a couple other businesses. F, sub-district F, that is the indoor storage unit facility itself and part of the Wendy's parking lot. Next slide. So just a few things to outline what stays the same and what's being changed. Again, the base zoning will remain intact for if this does pass. The Department of Public Works will still be in charge of approving for adequate utilities that occurs now and will occur afterwards. And the requirements for site plan review and special permits will be intact. If a special permit is required, applicant still needs to seek a special permit. If a site plan review is required, site plans will be reviewed by the planning board. Some of the important changes, we are proposing to change some of the allowed by rights and special permits, and that's outlined in section 979. We're updating some of the specifications for dimensional requirements, basically offsets and size of lots and stuff and such, and some of the parking requirements. We're adding affordable housing criteria to D, E, and F, and we're adding building and site design guidelines for some of the larger buildings that could potentially be constructed in this district. And that is all I have for Article 10.
Comments and questions? Recognize the microphone to the right.
Robin Schulman, 3rd Street. Question on Article 10 on page 14. I see the state has requirements for MBTA adjacent communities. And they list increased pedestrian access, et cetera. Has anybody given any consideration to bicycle access on 62 there as development increases?
It's been a part of the conversations. I would not disclude bicycle access as read itself. Pedestrian access could potentially also mean bicycle access. But we also have other parts of the bylaw itself that cover bicycle storage and things of that nature. Does that help to answer your question?
Will that take into consideration, say, bike lanes or traffic calming so the bicycles can pass through there more safely than currently?
So these zoning bylaws would apply to private property and the development of private property. Something that would have a bike lane would be on the public roads, and that would be through a road program, a complete streets program that we already have in place in town as a policy. But that would be done through some type of public works for the streetscape itself. So that would not be covered in here.
I recognize the microphone to my left.
Hi, Joshua Ledwell, 3 Glen Drive. I'm concerned by the part of Article 9 where it removes the requirement for parking spaces for dwellings. Maynard is not really the kind of town where there's adequate public transportation to get places you need, like people need cars here. It says that the goal of removing that is to have less, I think it said impermeable coverage, which I understand to be like pavement, basically. But the thing is, you can park cars on gravel, you can park cars on permeable pavement that has gaps in it, so you don't create extra runoff and pollution issues. So I've lived in town for about 17 years, and there's been a lot of zoning changes to the downtown area over time. They tend to be benefit developers, and I don't often see positive changes coming out of that. The Mill area has not been improved very much, and despite many zoning changes. So I would not like to see no requirement for parking in town, because I think that zoning is a sort of expression of how we want our community to be. And I don't want a lot of housing going up with no parking and having people competing for public parking spaces that are very limited already.
Next, the microphone to the center.
Sorry, may I respond to that, just for some clarity?
Oh, sure.
Okay,
I'm
thank you.
sorry.
To be clear, this is not removing the parking requirements. This is simply removing this reference to parking requirements and then defaulting back to our town-wide parking requirements itself. So the town still has parking requirements for different types of new buildings.
What would be the overall effect on the area that you're changing zoning for? Like, what would be the new rules for dwelling parking spaces?
That's a good question. Bill Nemser, may I defer to you as town planner? Well, I believe the specific question is, what would now be the current parking requirement in the downtown?
Bill Nemser, Planning Director. In your warrant on page 18, it describes what would be the parking requirements for the Powder Mill Overlay District. And what the chair has alluded to was simply clarifying parking discrepancy between the town parking bylaws and what was currently in the downtown overlay district. So there is no change. And what is printed on page 18 of your warrant, I believe, gives you pretty much every use you could would be permitted under that new bylaw if the town does opt to vote for this. Well, it would depend on the use, sir. Multifamily housing, for example, would be 1 per dwelling unit. Medical office would be 2 per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. Office, 2 parking spaces for 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. Restaurant, retail, and research development all would have that same requirement. Hotel, inn, motel space would be 1 per guest room. Function rooms, rooms of assembly, there is a maximum, there is no minimum on that.
If I may defer to another planning board member to help give a more specific answer to that question. Bill?
Yeah, thank you. Bill Cranshaw. I believe you were asking specifically for the downtown area. And what Bill Nemser talked about applies to the Powder Mill Road area. But downtown, the rules will be the same as anywhere else in town. It will be, if it's a single family, 2 spaces. If it's a studio apartment, 1 space. If it's a 1-bedroom apartment, 1 1/4. If it's a 2-bedroom, 1 1/2 spaces. Those are the rules everywhere else in town now, and it will be now the same for the downtown area.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, I recognize the microphone in the center.
Yeah, it's Roger Stillwater, 17 Sunset Road, and I'm noticed that on page 15, you're talking about affordable housing, and you've reduced the number of affordable housing, the percentage of affordable units that are required. It was 20%, and now it goes from 10% to 18%, and that the whole reason Maynard exists is around affordable. We're more affordable than surrounding areas, and there's no low-income housing in this at all. So can you address that?
We can address why we made the change. Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking two things. Why did you make the change, and why isn't there any low-income housing in this?
Okay. Bill Nemser, may I defer to you on this? Thank you.
You're right, Mr. Stillwater. There is a gap now for a project that was from 13 to 20 units. That was a mixed-use project in the overlay district. And then after 21 units or any larger project, it reverts back to 20% and up. So there, if somebody did construct a unit or a project with 13 to 20 units, it would be one unit provided. The reason that was done was because the area, if we could go back to the map, please, particularly in the area where we anticipate would be suitable for mixed use, there are about, in that case, there's about 16 individual parcels that are smaller. And the thinking was that the benefits of compact mixed-use development that met the intention of the overlay district would be more beneficial and more of it would be more of an incentive to have the overlay district on smaller parcels by reducing that number. So we did recognize that in that gap from a project with 13 to 20 units, we would have one unit instead of two. That's the only reduction. In terms of the why is there not more low-income housing?
Percent then?
I'm sorry?
13 to, it says 13 to 17 is 12%.
So I think we're talking
Coming
about
down.
two different sections here, and Mr., is it Stillwater? You're referring to the affordable housing requirements for PMODA. And so Bill Nemser, he's referring to the sub-district A.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that's, this is for B, or I'm sorry, for E, D, and F. So the
And
new ones, the others remain the same, but they are, and that was required.
and Bill, as I recall, we were required to make some changes to the sub-district A because the state required us to do so.
That's correct.
So-
Everything that was done in A. was
So
to meet state
we,
requirement.
to be specific, to answer your question, we're being required to make those changes to sub-district A by the state under their review. And that goes back to the compliance with the MBTA communities 3A compliance.
The state is forcing you to reduce the affordable housing?
Yes. That is, I don't believe we're allowed to have low-income housing into sub-district A. I don't believe exactly.
That was correct.
So what you're referencing in the changes we made to sub-district A, in the center of page 15, you'll see it says 9761. In PMODA, those are the changes that are being presented. That's based on the review from the district attorney's office.
Thank you very much.
To my left.
Richard Allison, Deer Path. What kind of stress on the sewer line are we going to expect? I remember when the new project went in with the apartments, we turned down Acton's request for $2 million to upgrade the line. Are we now going to face, with all this new development, a potential $2 million bill so that we can accommodate the extra sewage?
I have no idea. But this is
kind of a
to
good
be,
question then.
well, but it is and it's not. And it's a good question to think about big picture. This particular article is only allowing the zoning to occur. Now,
So-
there's a whole nother process that occurs once an applicant is proposing to provide a development or prepare for a development. And one of those items is that they need to go to the Department of Public Works to have a conversation about adequate utilities. That process does not change. So regardless of what's being built under either base zoning in this area or potentially the overlay district zoning, the process is the same in either way.
And we cannot have that, we have to know who's developing before we do that, is my assumption then?
It allows any property owner to develop. So right now, the property owner could develop under base zoning. As long as they meet base zoning requirements, they could develop under the base zoning. This would allow them to,
Well, my concern is if you should be able to take like a maximum build-out number here, anticipate that amount of sewage that's gonna flow, and figure out who's paying for that before 2-3 years from now. Developers are now, or tying in and gonna tell us, well, the town has to upgrade this, which means 2 or 3 years from now, we come back to town meeting for a $2 million vote to put in a sewer line.
my perspective is actually quite the opposite.
Oh.
We would have developers propose these projects, and if we can't provide adequate utilities, then it's upon them to help contribute to those adequate utilities.
And you anticipate the size being enough
Well,
so that they
you've had-
will-
I have
You've had
not
your
done,
moment.
I have not done any calculations on sewer size.
You're welcome to stay there. I just want to give somebody else a chance.
And
I recognize the microphone in the center.
Hello, Marie Gunderson again, 119 Parker Street. As I look at this, it does seem to, this overlay district, you mentioned development. And when I look at it, one of the things that stands out is the change in the minimum lot requirements, reduced from 1,500 square feet per unit to 1,000. This is 978, I guess, crossed out 977 dimensional requirements. So the purpose of this is to maximize the amount of development by reducing the lot size. That seems to be the purpose of this. And we just talked about water and not having sufficient water. So we're continuing the development, squeezing in as much as we can while we're having trouble meeting our water requirements. That's what I get from this. Is that reasonable?
That is a reasonable view, and I'm not going to say that your view is unreasonable. I think that perspective can be valid. A few things that I think would help. If you look at page 17, the new proposed minimum lot requirements is not 1,000 square feet for a lot. It's 1,000 square feet per residential unit, which will incentivize some more dense development. So think about a project that could have 15 units on multiple floors with some commercial on the base floor. That's what this is designed for. So yes, it will encourage more dense development, but not high rises. We're talking, we do have maximum height limits for here. So what we're really talking about is 2-story buildings, 3-story buildings, buildings on that size. Depending on full lot size, it depends on how many units you could accomplish. But bigger picture, at least from my perspective, development is part of the solution to helping with the water challenge. Every time we have development, that development itself contributes to potential upgrades and things of that nature. If we have a large development, we could even get a MassWorks grant and things of that nature. So from my point of view, development is more part of the solution than necessarily the problem with the water challenge.
I had a question about your general statements. There's going to be a bunch of changes in here, but we didn't specify them. But to that point, I had a large development go up next door to my house. And yes, I attended all the meetings, and yes, there were supposed to be contributions, yet we still have a problem. So that developments, I don't think addressed our water supply issues. So I still struggle with increasing the density and demand against our supplies.
Okay,
Thank you.
Recognize the microphone in the center.
Hi, Sarah Hartman, 3 Oak Ridge Drive. I have a question two questions actually, 9.7.6.1 on page 15. I have a question, number one, why the fractional unit should be rounded down as opposed to rounded up for affordable housing? And also just an informational point, who is it who sets the determination or the definition of the affordable unit rates as 80% of the area median income? And does anybody know what the area median income is? Yeah,
I will answer your second question first.
okay.
The area, AMI, the area median income, is a regional calculation that includes Maynard, but also communities all the way to Boston.
Do you know what it is?
I don't know it off the top of my head. It's different for different unit sizes. So a 1 unit would have, I don't know what the area AMI is for 80% affordability. I don't off the top of my head. But and that changes, I believe it changes every year.
Is that set by the state or is that a municipal?
That's set regionally, I think technically by the state.
Okay, because that could be very high.
So practically speaking, the AMI is, at least in the last couple of years, has been about market rate value for rental properties in town.
Okay.
So it is higher than we want. This is one reason why the planning board has continued to seek 60% AMI as a more affordable number for folks. Yeah.
I recognize the microphone to the left.
Did Richard Allison's, did you just ask about the average income in Maynard? No, sorry, okay.
Oh,
Misheard you.
sorry, may I,
Misheard you.
sorry, may I interrupt?
Yeah.
There was a second question. Your first question I did not answer. May I respond to that? Your first question asked about why are we rounding down on the fractional units? Bill Nemser, I believe that's because that's what the state instructed us to do. I don't actually recall.
For Powder Mill A, it was. On this one, I think it was to preserve consistency.
And the question was about the subdistrict A.
Right.
And so that was from the state.
That's correct. That was, they were very specific in where numbers were set and what was required.
Forgive me for interrupting.
So, that's okay. No, understood. Is Department of Public Works or someone from Water and Sewer currently here tonight?
Yes.
My question is, I believe when Acton wanted to tie in, we were approaching the maximum that the town would allow any further development on. And it sounds like this overlay district is going to push us to that limit and require the whole town to be resewered. Is that true? You haven't?
I will call on DPW Director Justin DeMarco, but I will say this overlay district is not going to require us resewering the entire town.
My name is Justin DeMarco, Public Works Director. So there's 4 ways to look at this, as Chris has alluded to. We have to actually wait for the private property developers to pitch a use pattern. So take F. So right now on F, we have storage units. The capacity needs for water and sewer for a storage unit are nominal. But if that was a 400 unit, 2-bedroom housing development, we would evaluate from 4 processes. So we treat and produce our own water. So there's water capacity needs. We treat and remove sewer from our system through our wastewater treatment process. And what the gentleman's referring to is we also convey sewer through sewer pipes to our wastewater treatment plants. And we also convey water from our treatment plants to source site. when we do evaluation, we do an evaluation based on the developer's needs on those 4 criteria to see if our town is, one, capable of producing the water, providing the source, collecting the sewer, and treating the sewer. To the conversation that is had in the past on Acton, that was basically a wastewater facility capacity issue, meaning our treatment process and plant did not have excess capacity to treat the required amounts that the developer pursued. But I don't want to answer too much for zoning, but we do have to look at every single development. You asked a question earlier about, can we plan for that? If you're unaware, Powder Mill's sewer capacity size, just the pipe, is actually one of the largest conveyance pipes we have in the town due to the fact that it was a large-scale commercial facility.
From the center.
Terry Short, 20 Brooks. For these areas we're talking about, and especially E and D, what % of that is developable land that's not currently developed?
I don't have an answer to that. I believe most of those parcels, a good amount of those parcels already have a structure on it. Maybe not all.
So does that mean if somebody currently owns a home there, a house, they sell it, or they could tear it down and they could build a mixed use structure, or once it's a residential spot, will it always be a residential spot?
If they meet all the requirements of the overlay district zoning, they potentially could build multi-use, but they would have to follow all of the guidelines and all of the zoning that's in here.
Okay.
Yes.
So by passing, you said that most of it is developed.
I believe most of those parcels shown have a structure on them, yes,
Okay.
most of them.
All right. So this is just if the current owner is going to change the use of the property or they sell it to somebody different. It's not like we're developing.
We're not approving any specific developments at all. This is just an overlay zoning that will be allowed to be chosen by a property owner if they choose. To be
Thank you.
clear, they won't be able to develop, if they choose overlay district zoning, they'll have to develop through overlay district zoning. If they choose base zoning, they have to develop through base zoning. There's no sharing of zoning and cherry picking, if you will.
I recognize the microphone to my left.
Hello, Andrei Ursake, 16 Euclid Ave. So I understand from your description the effective meaning of the numbers or the parameters in this table on page 17 is that there'll be higher development density in those zones along the river, D and D, right? Based on your description earlier.
To be specific, what number are you referring to?
Minimum yard requirements, minimum % of lot area, maximum coverage. I'm not familiar with the zoning bylaws, but you said it's a higher development density in those maps, D and E. So my question is, have there been any studies of the impact on the river ecosystems? Because those are right along the river, and I don't see any discussion or any perspective on the impact on the ecosystem of the river. Thank you.
May I turn to the conservation agent to help answer this, please?
Hi, I'm Zoe Peel. I live at 12 Vernon Street. I'm the assistant town planner and the conservation agent. As Mr. Chair of the Planning Board mentioned, that these are zoning bylaws, and they don't speak to the obligations that any developer would have to meet under both the State Wetlands Protection Act, the Riverfront Protection Act, and the town's own wetland bylaw. Any kind of redevelopment project, any kind of alteration that would occur along the river side of Powder Mill Road would be required to go through the standard permitting process that they would be subject to. The zoning bylaws will not alter any developer's burden to meet the environmental regulations that are currently in force on any of the currently protected areas. It does not change any level of protection. And in spite of or in addition to any kind of planning process that a developer would have to go through, it is almost certain that any project proposed on the river side of Powder Mill Road would also have to gain conservation approval.
And Zoe, may I ask a quick follow-up? Would that be different under base zoning and the overlay district zoning, or would it be the same?
It would be the same.
I recognize the microphone to my right.
Jan Jones, live on Nick Lane. I have a simple question regarding 9.7.8, the parking space requirements. And the maximum number of spaces intuitively seems a little bit low for some of the, particularly the business types that are mentioned there. What was the basis of those numbers? And, you know, I'm not fond of having parking lots all over the place, but if you have a business, you want your patrons to be able to park. And where were these numbers gained from? Do they compare with what other towns do or what towns in the area do?
We started with our current parking allowances in town, and we reduced those slightly. We want to disincentivize large parking lots along the Powder Mill. That is not the intention of the Powder Mill Overlay District. We don't want it to have large parking lots. We want it to be friendly for the community, friendly for residents, with the different interactions of mixed use. So those were the numbers that were discussed in planning board session. But please note that a developer, if they had a good reason, they could seek essentially a variance from those numbers and say, here's the reason why we want the parking numbers to actually be higher. And they would have to justify that to the planning board in planning board hearings, and we would consider it for sure. So it's possible to have higher numbers than that, but the applicant would have to propose a reason why. Does that help?
It does. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And I think other people might like to know the answer also. Okay, thank you.
I recognize the microphone in the center.
Hi, Demetra Zekris, 6 Mill Street. So if I was a developer and I can either go with the old zoning, normal zoning, or I can go for the extra zoning, what's in it for me to do the extra zoning, which I think we all would want the developer to do, but why would I do that? It's going to cost me more money. So what's the incentive? First question. Second, just briefly, does Maynard own any of that in E, D, or F?
To answer your second question first, the answer is yes. We do have a small parcel inside of D, I believe. Justin, is that correct? Right? And I believe it's about 2 parcels to the left of the letter D on there.
And that's where the co-op is.
It's just west of the co-op.
Okay.
Is the Maynardtown property.
Okay.
It's a small parcel that includes some DPW,
Yeah.
a small building, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of that.
Okay.
And I believe that's, from my understanding, that's the only town property in D, E, or F. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's correct.
So do you remember my first question?
Incentives for developers.
Thank you.
This is designed to incentivize developers by allowing more units. More units equals more profit for developers, but the bonus, what we want, is vibrant communities. So we want communities that are able to have affordable units, but also units where they can live and sort of play at the same time. We want to develop shops and different types of retail establishments that will be supportive of the community. So this incentivizes mixed use, similar to the downtown on maybe a slightly smaller scale, but similar to the downtown sort of mixed use concept. And so that's the trade-off, right? Developers will get more units, but we will get more amenities, and we will be able to develop in a way that we have more control. Does that help?
I recognize the microphone to my left.
Andrew Grossman, 10 Deer Path. I had a question about the parking lots. Would there be any, what's it called? Just forgot the word. Something to make the developers want to do this. So like fees or something for, sorry, I forget the word, to have them do, instead of doing impervious pavement, that would further increase runoff and erosion, et cetera, into the river. Would there be an incentive? Yeah, word. Incentive to have them do permeable pavement or like maybe make rain gardens around there so that there wouldn't be like increased runoff if you're increasing parking lot size?
It's a good question. So those types of products, I think, would align with different town goals. It would align with master plan goals. It would align with conservation goals. It would align with some of the development principles we have here in town. If a developer were to propose those, from my point of view as chair, that would make the application stronger and more likely for us to support it. So yes, and is there anything in the zoning bylaws that stipulates we want impervious or we want more pervious options for parking lots? No, it does not say that specifically, but it does make their application stronger and more likely that the planning board will support those because it does meet a lot of the goals that we have in town.
Is there any plans, if I can continue, if there are any plans to make this more attractive, like maybe doing another zoning law or something to, or fees for impermeable pavement? I've heard other towns are doing fees for how much impervious pavement is on a property.
So something like that would be a separate effort and probably more town-wide than specific to a sub-district. But please note that what we're trying to pass, or this warrant article, includes design principles. And some of those design principles are about maintaining open space. So we want to reduce the impervious surfaces, and we want to maintain more open space. Open space essentially will give the developer more credit for their development. The way this is particularly written in with the design guidelines that we have. But your larger question, I think, would be a good question to talk to town staff about. I'm sure they would be happy to point you in the right direction on actions that could be taken.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're going to move on to a vote. I forgot to do one thing. So if you could answer for me, is the planning board recommendation for Article 8
Planning board recommends Article 8.
and Article 9
The planning board recommends Article 9.
and Article 10?
The planning board recommends Article 10.
Okay, so we're now moved to vote. If any 5 voters would like to break out 8, 9, or 10 individually, now is the time to speak up. Otherwise, we'll vote all together. So I have one in the back that would like to break out at one. If we have anybody else. Okay, so only one, I have 2 people. So that doesn't meet the criteria, so we'll vote for the 3 together. So on ballot number 8, this is a secret 2/3 majority requirement for Articles 8, 9, and 10. Please fill out your ballot and do not fold. Turn it upside down, please. Ballot number 8 for Articles 8, 9, and 10. Okay, the ballots have been collected. Can we move on to Article 11?
Good? Okay. I move to approve Article 11 as printed in the warrant, except the words, and bear with me, in item 1, to strike the words in excess of 15 kWh, which references kilowatt hours, and in item 2, to strike the sentence, this definition does not apply to residential uses storing 15 kWh or less, and replace it with, in item 2, this definition does not apply to residential uses under 20 kWh per individual unit or 80 kWh for the aggregate of units, and accept the words to do or act thereon.
Do I have a second? Do I have a Finance Committee recommendation?
Finance Committee recommends.
Do I have a Planning Board recommendation?
Planning Board recommends.
Would you give your presentation?
And my apologies for all of that language. Essentially, the Planning Board wanted to make a change as we were working towards town meeting, just to provide additional clarity. And so big picture, this warrant article is designed to regulate battery energy storage systems within what's called the Water Supply Protection District. And it establishes a definition of what a battery energy storage system, a BESS, is. And so a few things. This is meant to regulate large commercially operated battery energy storage systems, something that would go into, say, a building that houses numerous batteries that is meant to provide supply back to the electrical grid itself. We do not have any regulations on the books regarding battery energy storage systems. And there's been many discussions around the Commonwealth on how to best regulate BESSs. We wanted to pass this zoning bylaw, or at least bring it to town warrant for your consideration, to help regulate it specifically in the water, the water district itself. There is concern that these larger commercial operations can have fires. Lithium-ion batteries do spontaneously catch on fire. There's been a number of instances across the Commonwealth and across the United States where those types of fires the pollution from them can migrate into the groundwater itself. And so this is partly designed to be very protective of the water supply districts in town, so that some of these larger establishments will not be allowed. There are some standards to this, and so we're allowing residential units that may have a battery storage in their basement to have a battery storage up to 20 kilowatt hours if they have one of those units, or an aggregate up to 80 kilowatt hours if there's numerous battery storage options for a residential household. This does not include cars, so we are not regulating electric vehicles, for example. This is simply battery storage that is intended to distribute back to the electrical grid, and we're doing this to help protect the water districts in town. I'm going to pause there. I'm sure there might be questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, open for discussion. I recognize the microphone in the center.
Yes, Glenn Koenig, 10 Charles Street. So this large paragraph here on page 25, it sort of is in two pieces. I divide it where the word but occurs. So all the stuff following the word but, which is about halfway down, means that if the public utility means somebody like Eversource, is that what we're talking about there?
They're considered a public utility. Yes.
Right. So I'm trying to get through all the language here. Does that mean they're exempt from this siting, or can you explain to me what restrictions would be on them versus some other independent owner of one of these kind of facilities?
They wouldn't be necessarily exempt from battery storage. What this is saying, if you read it, does not include public utility owned and operated interconnection equipment. So it's referring to the equipment itself. Eversource would not necessarily be allowed to come in under our zoning and construct a large battery storage facility for commercial use. And there may be exemptions from that at the state level that could force us to do so. We don't have any control of that, but this is not, this from our zoning is not saying Eversource can put up battery storage with our blessing.
So this is, say, after the word "but," we're talking just about interconnection equipment. In other words, some wires that lead to a typical battery storage system. Is that correct?
It's just saying that we're not regulating, this is not about regulating public utilities interconnection equipment. There's a lot of different types of equipment. I don't know all the details. But this is in line with the language that a lot of towns are using to regulate this without disrupting public utility operations at the same time.
Okay. All right. And so in the last bit of the
Question, hello? Can I get you to hold that question and give her a chance, and then,
yes.
I recognize the microphone to my right.
Thank you very much. I'm Lisa Bernegard, 7 Shore Avenue. First, I'd like to applaud the planning board for taking this on and working to try and stay ahead of these facilities and protecting our water supply. My question is, in your discussions, did you think about, as we go back to PMLD, for example, adjacency to our waterways and rivers, or is this something that the Conservation Commission is taking up as part of a bylaw?
It's a good question. I don't have an answer regarding, we did not specifically talk about waterways and regulating it regarding waterways. Our conversation focused strictly on the water supply district itself. I would defer to the conservation agent to provide any other feedback on that. If we have any, we may not have a specific answer. I will let you all know that the other part of our conversation is that we consider this more of a stopgap until we can get a more robust bylaw on the books. However, I cannot promise that to anyone. Let me be clear. I can't promise that we're going to change this in the future. Please vote on what you see. But I can tell you what conversations were had in open public hearing, and that included that we wanted to get this passed now and to have further conversations in the future.
Do you want to add to that?
Yes, thank you. Zoe Field, 12 Vernon Street, Conservation Agent and Assistant Planner. Yes, as the Chair of the Planning Board said, this is essentially a temporary and incomplete portion of what will constitute a more comprehensive battery energy storage system zoning bylaw that's pending. And the other thing that I'll add is that these systems would be subject to other state and local environmental regulations to the extent that they are not exempt as public utilities, but certainly any kind of commercial operation for battery storage would have to come before conservation for approval should they be either in a jurisdictional area or shown to have any kind of impact on a jurisdictional area. So as with PMOD, this is a zoning bylaw. It doesn't alter any kind of existing environmental regulations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I recognize the microphone in the center.
My question is answered anyway. Thank you.
Okay, I recognize the microphone to the right.
Marie St. Germain, 5 Allen Drive. I had a question about the battery storage units that would be associated with the solar panels that we were talking about for Green Meadow, the high school, and also the one over by the dog park. And if those are on the water areas or if they are too small.
I don't know those design sizes, so I can't tell you if they're too small. But I can tell you if they're located in the water district. On page 26, the map.
I was having a hard time
Yep.
reading that map. is
Yeah,
wrong.
uh, I believe, that the entire campus is within the water district itself.
So would this then prohibit those battery storage?
If the
They-
school district was proposing to put large battery storage intended to distribute back to the grid, as this is currently written, it may prevent them from doing so.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to voting on Article 11 first. I'd like to give you the results of 8, 9, and 10. So we had 14 no votes. So if we double that, that's 28. So we need more than 28 yes votes, and we got 127. So it passes by 2/3 for all 3 articles. Okay, if you will use ballot number 9 for Article 11, which is a 2/3 secret ballot requirement. Okay, all the ballots have been collected. Robin, if you could make your motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move to approve Article 12 as printed in the warrant, except the words "to do" or "act thereon."
Do I have a Finance Committee recommendation? Would you like to give a presentation? Go ahead.
All right, hopefully this will be much shorter and simpler than the previous ones. I have 90 seconds to explain this to you, and I will read it to be clear. This home rule petition would authorize our select board to seek permission from the state of Massachusetts for Maynard to make our own decision on a future bylaw affecting residences and businesses to adhere to some form of anticoagulant rodenticide restriction. This is not a bylaw. It's asking permission from the state to write and vote on one in the future if we so desire. The town voted overwhelmingly to restrict ARs on municipal property last May. Both the town and 2 of 3 schools are now free of ARs. But this is only part of the overall use, as the private sector uses them as well. In order to effectively manage Maynard's rodent issues, residences and businesses also need to change methods. Rodent control is vital, and there are safer and more effective ways to do it, thus the importance of this step toward doing so. What will be voted on tonight will show our preference to affect townwide AR use. This vote has no cost. It simply indicates to the state legislature that we, the people of Maynard, are joining the growing number of towns that support AR restrictions. 19 other towns, including Concord, have passed home rule for this. Sudbury, Acton, and Stowe are now working on it as well. There are about 90+ towns that are doing this in the state. Thank you.
Okay, questions or comments? I recognize the microphone to my left.
Stephen Wagner, 13 Charles Street. For the benefit of those who were not here last May, the most effective argument in favor of what we passed then was from a professional engaged in reducing the presence of rodents, rats, okay? And he, based on his own experience, I believe in Somerville, was able to demonstrate that the use of these harmful chemicals is less effective than letting the predators do the job. And I think that applies to private property just as much as it applies to town property. And I hope that the town will, that this special town meeting will authorize a request to the state to allow us to take up such regulation in the future.
Any other questions or comments? All right, so we'll proceed to vote. This is an open majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your ballots. Thank you. All those opposed? Motion carries. Before we move to close the meeting, we want to wait for the results here of the previous vote. I'd also like to ask people if you could put up the very last slide. We have a survey that we put onto the website. So if you take a picture of that with your camera or something, you can log in and give us your thoughts on how to make town meeting a better town meeting. So what could we improve on and what did we do well that you want to make sure we continue to do? The other thing I would like to do is take this opportunity to thank WABM for the work that they've done in setting up this I'd also like to thank the collectors for the work that they did here this evening and for staff. And I would especially like to thank all of you who took the time out to come and participate in democracy. So thank you very much. And the results of Article 11, we had 6 noes, double that's 12. We had 133, so the article clearly passes. Thank you all very much. I'll entertain a motion to dissolve the meeting.
Bill Holman, Howard Road. Mr. Moderator, I move that this meeting be dissolved.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?